Last part to the exhaust treatment right here, and this is also the S model or the optional exhaust pipe with the 2 pipes.
That's volume at 14. Let's get some volume.
Alright, so setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat.
Also with this good handling, direct steering, the car is light and it also feels light. Sits so well on the road. You feel it's a long car. Therefore, when the corners get very narrow, this one was still quite okay. When they are too narrow, then you feel the long wheelbase as well. Other than that, a super sporty handling, and in this pure electric mode, it's already so much fun. Look at that, how I can steer it around, and I just hear the wind. Everything else is silent, and that's just, this is such a great feeling. At the same time, putting it in sports mode, combustion engine is active, then you have more boost, go faster, get the maximum acceleration out there. Always pay attention to the cyclist. Also sound, combined from the real engine and from the sound actuator here inside the cabin. And then you have, a boost like with a very powerful pure electric car. It feels really like that because in the front, the electric motor is still pulling us, whereas the engine in the rear is pushing us, working then as a seamless all-wheel drive system. Wow, really cool. Using shifting pedal is also possible. Then I can also get some nice sound just out of a 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine. Enjoy. Here, starting with the steering. You see, I don't have to steer that much. It's really easy to steer. It doesn't give me the best connected feeling, but it's actually quite okay. Here maybe it's, it lets you lay a little bit, although it's a little bit higher, but actually quite cool. And I mean, this is almost like a rally heritage we have here now. So it's actually quite a lot of fun, pretty cool. Found some interesting roads here for you. Why not? The funny thing about this super sport car is, and yes, I do call it a super sport car, well, you can drive silently if you want. So at the moment, we're just rolling pure electric, and if you're starting maybe from your yard or just don't want to annoy someone in the neighborhood, that's the way to go. You can always press the e-drive button. This one is then the pure electric drive. So maximum, if you just drive pure electric, could be something about 40 kilometers. Other than that, it's used as a boost function or to reduce the consumption. But I think it's good to have this option. It's a different approach. I mean, if you think about a Jaguar F-Type V8 and you start it in the morning, everyone knows you are starting it. And people are really split. Maybe you really want to have that sound and you want to say, hey neighbors, I just started my car. But maybe you want the rather subtle approach with this one here. Standing still here at the traffic light, totally silent. Also now with the convertible, I've driven an electric convertible once so far. It was a Smart 4.2 electric convertible. And it's really amazing to drive an electric convertible because it rather feels like riding a bicycle without sound, with open top, but at 70, 80 kilometers an hour or something. And that's also part about of this vehicle. This vehicle is not only about hammering it all the way, V8 sound and so on. This vehicle actually can do both, wants to do something more. And I think that's a very interesting approach, which we're already feeling it when we're starting the car very slowly. So, especially here now in the Roadster version, you feel that you dissolve a little bit more with your surrounding. Absolutely silent. Hear this little from the electric engine. Sorry, the electric motor. Yeah, I know there's no such thing as an electric engine. And of course, agile always when you need it, even if it's just a small lane change in the city. Well, they could have also made it pure electric, of course. That was my point earlier as well. I think that would definitely work, because if it works for 40 kilometers, it surely works for that too. So, there are some guys now who want to challenge us here. And, well, even if I'm just purely electric here, I'm gone. I mean, there's enough power also from the electric engine. It's actually no problem. Electric motor, sorry. So, this is also one feel of this vehicle. Just enjoy driving along the coastal line here in Palma de Mallorca today. It just feels great, and this is one of the parts where you might. Oh, I have to go right. Sorry. This is one of the parts where you have to say you do not miss the sound. Actually, it's just cool. It's just cool. Even without the sound, I do not miss a V8 sound here. Actually, I'm more relaxed, but at the same time, I can drive very fluently and also rapid. So you still have very good acceleration, because the electric motor always gives you the maximum torque that is available. It's interesting also what I've done with front wheel drive and rear wheel drive, because the engine is powering the rear wheels and the combustion engine and the electric motor, the front wheels. There's no physical connection between those. As I said earlier, therefore you can also add up the horsepower figures. And they are actually playing together. But if I'm just in the electric mode, then I just have a front-wheel driven super sports car, which is, again, really peculiar, isn't it?
Okay, thanks a lot.
The suspension is, of course, set on a rather stiff mode, as you would expect from such a vehicle. You do feel the bumps in the road. I think it's not too bad. Co-driver check, does it get through your lower back? It's okay. So Katrina says it's okay for her, and that's definitely a good sign when it's okay for the co-driver. So you do feel a connection with the road, but it's not that stiff that you would say you cannot really drive it. Look how agile this car feels. Very precise from the steering wheel, very natural steering feel. And I can already tell you so far, I would love to drive this car pure electric all the way. So far, as I said, also says 43 kilometers pure electric. Always depends, of course, how you drive it. Yeah, but that will maybe then with the Porsche Mission E, and I'm absolutely sure that BMW at one point will also present a sports car which is pure electric with a high range. That's that's going to happen. But we can also test the other driving modes. So the Auto e-drive, which we will go in now, will remain with the electric one when you're driving slower. And as soon as I push it a little harder, then it will also activate the combustion engine. About the regeneration, well, we do have the regeneration when we're in the pure electric mode, so you gain back the energy. When you are in those automatic driving modes, and especially in the sport mode, which will soon activate. Now, I'm not sure if you heard that. The combustion engine got active. I got some more boost now. Also hear the sound. They do use sound actuators. That means the sound you hear here on the inside is not the one you hear on the outside. For the inside passengers, it is artificially enhanced. There's always a lot of discussion about that. So some say, that's so pathetic. Come on, really? Seriously? But then again, you can say, regulations and being a little bit more silent on the outside. And at the same time, you can have sound fun on the inside, so you can argue for that. I think it's a little bit pathetic when you do it with the V8. That's happening, you know. You remember the Lexus V8 we've been driving? They still have sound actuators for the inside because modern engines are so well insulated from the cars nowadays, or from the cabin, so to say, from the passenger cabin. Here I'm quite okay with that if they do that. So we do have some sound now. So when we shift back, we can also use the shifting pedals here. It's actually quite decent, you know. As a car experience expert, you also hear that it's actually, you know, a very small engine. You hear that somehow from the sound. It sounds somewhat funny. Yeah, a little bit like a motorcycle engine. You know, BMW also builds motorcycles, so.
Let's take it to the music.
I guess I could also live without the sound, I think. I mean, it's quite decent, but it's not a sound where we would say, oh wow, that's the best sound ever. But then again, this is not what this car is about. Shall we just take this roundabout just one more? How cool is that? Wow, this is so nice. I would just drive this roundabout the whole day, really. And it feels so easy. And actually, when you do that, and the car is still pretty much silent, that feels even greater somehow because it's so effortless. This car is really effortless. And the funny thing is that effortless, we sometimes say maybe about SUVs or something, which are also a little bit sporty, but you know, or big luxury sedans with good power. But effortless here for a sports car, that's really interesting. Really interesting. Let's go to the next mode. So, what do we have? Let's see. So, Eco Pro, Comfort, well, those are some minor changes. What you can do, Eco Pro for some more savings. The throttle input is changed for that. Here the eDrive, the outer eDrive again. So usually you would leave it in the outer eDrive and maybe just put it to the pure electric mode when you're driving it in the city, for example. So you know, that's possible. Then we also have the sport mode, turning the stick here to the left, the automatic gear lever. And this will also change the digital instruments here in the front, putting it to red. We also are basically in a manual mode. Also the head-up display changed now. And the sound changes. So in the head-up display I see now the big number for the gear change and also an RPM meter. And you also heard that the sound has changed. So pretty interesting. You sit so low at the road, it's definitely also from the feeling a difference. This is really a supercar feeling, but I feel that the car is, for a supercar, relatively easy to handle. So if you think about or compare it to a McLaren, let's take that one for example. This one here again has less effort. So it's easier to drive. So if you have never driven a super sports car and you just sit in this one here and start driving, you know, you won't feel like, oh, I can't do this, this is too hard, it's too complicated. This will still be fine for you, I can tell you. And this is also a very interesting approach, making it easy for the driver to get to know this vehicle. Wow. This car is so much fun, and especially now with the open top, I would of course always choose the Roadster over the Coupe. Shifting back with the pedals now, shifting up. Wow. Yeah, I mean, you have some more boost in the sport mode. 4.7 4.6 seconds is the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour. That's about 0.2 seconds slower than the coupe. But I mean, you can easily live by that. Oh, the police is getting some fish. So maybe we should pass the police now with a very loud acceleration. What do you think, guys? Should I do that? We just keep it very steady. We want to keep on with this review. Of course, we also want to test the acceleration here, right? So now it also gets interesting about the wind features. So far we were driving maybe like 70 or something, 70 kilometers an hour, and it was not too windy in here, so quite good. And now it's doing acceleration from next police. Sorry. So this is so effortless. I mean, just plop and we're there. Really cool. Maybe some 80 to 120. Oh, that's it. So that went so quick. And now at 120, well, it's getting a little bit uncomfortable here. Wind, noise and turbulations wise, you feel particularly in this area. Well, this rear window we have there, let's get back to the normal mode. You have different modifications for that. So you can have it all the way up, like this. You can put it all the way down. And then there's a recommended position, like just a little notch. I didn't feel too much. Did you feel any difference now? Well, I didn't feel too much difference. It's more about the speed you have. But they say that in this middle position, it would be the best against wind turbulences. 90 kilometers an hour is still quite okay. So if you think about just something below 60 miles an hour, above that you feel the wind. I mean, if you're in California, like the majority of the customers of this vehicle, I mean, you usually have temperatures like these, you know, at 25 degrees here. That's Fahrenheit, I think, in the 80s or 90s, even, something like that, I think 80s. I'm not the best with calculating that one. And, I mean, but then again, probably most time you wouldn't drive that fast anyway. Again, really stable on the road, of course, this car. This speed is nothing. Interesting also that even if I go to the electric drive, we can drive pure electric with the maximum speed of 120 kilometers an hour. That's totally enough then with the electric. If I want to drive fast, I mean, here for example, when we're not in Germany, most of the time we're not allowed to drive faster anyway. So I can also accelerate just in the pure electric mode. And what I would be interesting now is when I really hammer the throttle, does the car stay in the electric drive mode? No. So this is a question of philosophy. We do have some plug-in hybrids which stay in the pure electric mode, and there's also enough power available. Just maybe not at the highest speeds. But then again, we have seen, for example, also the Porsche Panamera hybrid. They have a resistance in the throttle then. And when you hammer it all the way through, it's the same here. Then also the combustion engine gets activated for the maximum boost. And that's the same which is also happening in the sport mode. You get the maximum boost by combining both motors. And what's really astonishing is that how seamless you have the transition between those different modes. So you don't really feel it. The characteristic of this car is also not too different depending on front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, because the car sits so well on the road and is so effortless and smooth and sporty to drive. You don't feel so much difference than from where the power is coming from. And there's, you know, a constant transition between all of those. Well, what is also interesting, when we close the roof now, Oh, we can't do that here, that's too fast. So we can do it at about 50 kilometers an hour maximum. So I'll show you that very soon. Because I also want to tell you something about the noise insulation and when the roof is closed, but I've caught on it. I can't close or open it at this point, yeah. And it's a funny thing. I mean, I would have never thought about doing it in a convertible, but this car, you know, it's so seamless and effortless that you basically think everything is possible. So really nice in the driving characteristic. Well, what about long-term driving or road trips? I mean, those are sport seats. They have a little bit more shoulder support here in the Roadster if you compare it with the Coupe. I mean, I would not recommend it for hours and hours and hours. Considering it's a super sports car, I'm okay with the seating comfort. You too? Yeah. Okay, so co-driver proof as well. But of course you cannot compare it in the comfort with a really good seating position you have somewhere else. You have to make a compromise at some point, and when you sit so close to the road, well, that's what you get. But considering this segment here, I think it's also pretty decent what they did there. Look at how stable this car remains also at higher speeds. It's really amazing. So let's try something more again, going to the sport mode once more. Oh, radar camera signs, so that's the perfect road then to test the acceleration. What about somewhere 70 kilometers to 100? Let's go. Like instantaneously. And again, from the acceleration, you do not miss a V8 or something either. So I think the biggest difference is that you don't have the sound. But on the other hand, you have this really cool stuff that you can drive pure electric. Maybe you can feel a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more eco-friendly as well. You can even commute to work pure electric. And you can say, hey, you know, I got an electric car. It's an i8. I mean, that could really work, no? Why not? So, a good car to travel to your office in Silicon Valley, for example. Well, if they have put maybe some less cows on the seats, that would be even more or more suitable for the sustainability idea. But I think the overall idea shows the transition, that it's going in the right direction, by the way. So in front of us a car that you might, you know, more people might be able to own, Hyundai Kona, also in our review at the moment, so you can join that review as well. So, cruising is also fun here in this car. Good traveling speed is something about 70 and 90 kilometers an hour, I would say, that you can really enjoy it also without being too loud. Funny thing is also when you look to the rear mirror, or to the side mirror here, and you see this aerodynamic design line I've explained to you with the exterior. It looks like the roof would not have been opened or closed properly. You would say, there's something broken with the car. You know, when you look in the mirror, see that? See that? Oh my God, my car's being ripped apart. That's how it looks like. But that's how it's meant to be. At least from this perspective, it looks pretty weird. So rest assured, that's not a real problem. So there's a normal cruise control inbuilt here too. I mean, if that's a vehicle for 170,000 euros, which we're driving here, it also should have this stuff in, you know. Also like a blind spot monitor. I mean, you could say, yeah, pure sports car and stuff, but come on, seriously. Just put those assistance systems in the car when you pay so much money for a car. I mean, lane keeping assist, I can argue with that some might say, this is influencing my driving too much or something, you know. Good example here now with a BMW M, the total contrast to this car. Passing us then with a big V8 raw, for example. And if you're sitting in here, you really do not miss that at all. So I find that, you know, the solution or the whole concept of this car is pretty cool, actually. And You don't have so much less comfort than in another convertible. Of course, you drive a big chassis without you around. But then again, as long as you're inside the car, then people can look from the outside, and this is of course somehow also a show-off car, but definitely a show-off car in another way, not in the classical way. So I would say we do one more acceleration, and then we're off to some countryside roads. Or maybe we can still show you that now. Let's get off here. The GPS, by the way, is pretty easy to follow. I like that with BMW. So GPS from the Volkswagen Corporation, so VW, Audi, Seat, Skoda, and the BMW GPS. To me, they work the best as how they lead you in the way. Talked about it recently with the Mercedes GPS software. We usually have one point in the driving event where we are misled at some stage, and that's not happening here. So now where the car is really at home, let's check that one out. And first again, pure electric. When I raise the throttle foot, I can also see how the car is recuperating, recharging. Now being pulled from the front wheels. Agile and fun to drive. I mean, isn't the concept of an electric convertible just superb? I think you could even more enjoy the surrounding. And definitely also others. I mean, even if you like an V8 sound yourself, do you like it when you're sleeping in your garden, maybe, on a chair? Maybe not. So this car really also thinks about others and not only saying, I'm just focused on what I'm doing myself. I think that's a very interesting aspect of this vehicle. So great here in this electric mode again. Direct opposite from electric mode again back to the sport mode. Again boosted by the speakers.